Welcome back to Unwrapped. Cereal characters truly are the kings of the icon jungle. Nearly every box on the shelf smiles back at us. We saw some of our familiar breakfast buddies earlier in the show, and right now we want to meet up with a few more.
No one has had more crazy characters pitching their products than cereal companies.
It didn't take long before they realized they needed a little extra spark to market their cereals.
The spark began in 1933 with a tiny elf named Snap. His cohorts made this solo a trio a few years later. The 1960s ushered in some old favorites like this crazy cuckoo. His look is unmistakable, but do you know his name?
I'll just feed Sonny some of these luscious little corn puffs.
Yep, his name is Sonny. And what about this guy's name?
Captain Crunch's first name is Horatio.
Captain Horatio Crunch was created by Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoonist Jay Ward. He gave the captain his look and his story.
He gave him a birth date, which was 1387, I believe, and he actually gave him parents. His mother was an Indian named Gidget Running Star, and his father was Sven Crunch, who was the navigator on the first Viking ship that came to America.
The captain may be capable, but hapless characters have also proven to be popular.
It's the rabbit. The Trix rabbit always wants to get his hands on the Trix, but he never gets to. And that has been a really successful campaign, and kids kind of like that it gives them the power over the rabbit, but they still see the rabbit as a friend, and they're kind of giving him guidance.
That guidance has in fact paid off. When kids were asked to vote on letting him get his paws on some cereal, he won.
Whee!
It's the rabbit, and he hates the Trix. Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids.
Monsters scared their way onto our breakfast tables in the 1970s. First with Count Chocula and Frankenberry, then joined by Boo Berry.
They're all friends and they're monsters at the same time. And kids are just kind of fascinated with that paradox. These monsters are approachable somehow, so it works.
Many of these characters have become so approachable, in fact, they've gained a following separate from the cereal.
I was at a mall recently, and we had a Lucky the Leprechaun costume. But we didn't have any cereal anywhere, and it was amazing how many kids ran up to him saying, "Lucky!"
Frosted Lucky Charms are magically delicious.
And with the popularity of the classic icons remaining, it looks like kids of all ages will be embracing these images for years to come.
And they just seem to stick. So as long as it's working, we're not going to change a thing.
While these cereal personalities are huge stars, it's time now for a look at those long-lost characters that weren't quite as durable. Time to look back on those faces that flopped but aren't totally forgotten, well, just yet.
He's the king collector of pop culture's trash.
Don't you just love food icons? I know you do.
From cases of cereal boxes to blown-up pickles, if it was sold in the 60s or 70s and comes with a wacky sidekick, you can bet Dan Goodsell has one.
I've loved the food icons since I was a kid, and I started collecting them, and I found tons of characters that I didn't even remember or know they made.
However, not everyone loves these little guys like Dan, so some creatures find themselves with a pretty short shelf life. Remember Rory Raccoon? How about the Yum Yum Bumblebee Boy? Didn't think so.
There are basically three types of food characters that haven't survived. Products that failed, characters that have changed over time, and characters that they got rid of because they were politically incorrect.
Dan's collection is filled with these failures, especially his cereal aisle.
Here we have a wall of some of my cereal boxes. Some of the characters like Captain Crunch are still around. Other icons like the Spoon Men are long gone. In the 50s, when they introduced Frosted Flakes, they had two icons, Katie Kangaroo and Tony the Tiger. Tony's lasted up till now over 50 years, and Katie, only about a year. Sugar Pops and Sugar Stars had the icons of Sugar Pops Pete and Hillbilly Goat, and these characters were only around for a few years, because who wants to buy cereal from a goat? Quangaroos is gone, Quake is gone. In the late 70s, Lucky Charms got rid of Lucky, the leprechaun, and brought in Waldo the Wizard for a couple of months. Here we have Kaboom. We also have King Vitamin, two cereals that were so packed with vitamins you couldn't eat them. I remember going into the grocery store when I was about, I guess, 7 years old, and seeing Freakies on the shelf and falling in love with it.
Sometimes everything old is new again.
On Cocoa Krispies, they started with Coco the monkey, went to Melvin the elephant, then Og the caveman, back to Coco the monkey again. In the case of some products, they fail, like Quisp, but years later they'll bring it back for a whole new audience.
Nothing's impossible with sugary sweet twist.
Cereal is not the only loser. Other characters got dumped for being politically incorrect.
Funny Face had Injun Orange and Chinese Cherry. Fizzy's had an Indian chief and a witch doctor. In the 50s, Oscar Mayer employed Little Oscar, an actor of short stature. He drove around in the Wienermobile promoting their products. But by the 60s, that was not so politically correct, so they changed Little Oscar into a small cartoon boy. But probably the most classic character of all that was politically incorrect was the Frito Bandito. He was a Mexican, and he was a thief. Kind of not the stereotype you want to get across.
Considering the countless characters who flopped, the classics that have lasted decades are even more amazing.
Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener.
Besides icons that failed, there are also the ideas that didn't quite get off the ground. Like, for instance, did you know that Tony the Tiger was up against Newt the Gnu and Zeke the Zebra for the job of cereal frontman, but thank goodness Tony won out. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. See us again next time when we unwrap more secrets behind America's